development in itself is a little bit of a complex beast, because it is a there is a difference, there is a mix. So charities, foundations, nonprofits, we all depend on funding, mostly from external sources and resources. And I'm sorry, I'm just trying to figure out right now why this keeps going. And so we as an organization, we are dependent on sponsorships, we are dependent on donations and grants and in-kind support. So that's what all makes out the big fund development. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is sponsorship and what is philanthropy? For a lot of people, when you look at it and you think like, oh, it is, you know, it is sponsorship and philanthropy are interchangeable. They're actually not. Sponsorship is an exchange of cash and in-kind service for an organization's logo or exposure. So you get a benefit out of it. So for every dollar you receive, you actually give a benefit back. And it could be a marketing tool, it could be a communications tool. And I'm sorry that it keeps jumping. I think there's a timer there and I cannot figure out how to get it out. And then the second one is philanthropy, and that's a voluntary transfer of a gift, which is the donation, in exchange for a donations or a charitable tax receipt. And that's regulated and monitored by CRA. So you can't just wildly go and issue them. There are some strict rules and regulations. The next one would be sponsorship benefits. So we have a sponsorship. We often use them for community investment or engagement. You know what, I'm just going to try and see if I can pause it just for 1 second. So, sorry, back to the sponsorship benefits. So sponsors often use their community investment or marketing budget to support local charities and nonprofits. And depending on the amount, at least what we do and what I've seen in other nonprofits and charities, we are going to give out sponsorship benefits, and they often they're very specific to a sponsor's needs. And they may also look for more return of investment. So, you know, we may reach their target audience. They may want to increase their brand. They're going through a restructure or through a rebrand themselves, or they have a product that they would like to share. That's where our audience comes in. And that's what they pay with their sponsorship dollars. You know, a lot of them will do it because they love the program, but a lot of them also just, you know, see the benefit of knowing 4-H is huge. It's across Alberta. It has a lot of followers. Everybody loves it. And that's what they will do. In-kind support, well, the most support we receive is made in cash, but sometimes supporters may also decide, you know what, in-kind support can be very valuable, like it's a service or it's a product. And it really depends on what it is. If it is something that's budget underwriting, that's amazing. So if you as a club have an event and you go and say, you know what, we need somebody to actually play DJ for tonight, but we can't afford it. Well, you go to your local store, and instead of them just giving you the funds, what they will do is they'll say, you know what, we'll send you a local DJ for your event. And that would be in-kind support. There's still a dollar value attached to it, but it's different. And it comes with a very specific receiving and recognition process, because you really have to back up the value to the actual benefits or that you receive as a club, as the recipient. So you really have to look into that. And then we get into tax receipts. And tax receipts are one of those that are quite heavily, well, they should be regulated by CRA. So whenever there is a donation made, a donor is eligible to receive a tax receipt for income tax purposes. However, you can't give them anything in return. There are no benefits. It's a free gift, you know, comes from the heart, and per CRA rules, you can't give them anything in return. So if there is any value, let's assume, you know, we have, like, I've seen it with golf tournaments. You know, somebody gets a golf, enters into a golf tournament, they buy a ticket. There are benefits because for, let's say, $150, you get to play on the golf course and you get to have a dinner. There is a special calculation where any benefit will be deducted from the overall value of the tax receipt. And then only, the last thing is only registered charities can actually issue tax receipts because they are linked to a charity's number. And the charity's number, again, is registered with CRA. So what will happen is sometimes at the end of the year, sometimes if you're in bad luck, you know, CRA will come in and say, okay, time for an audit. And then every donation that we received and we received it, we will actually have to have a proof of paperwork and how the process happened. And then we get down to the charity's number. And each charity has one. It's assigned by CRA. It's a lengthy process to actually get to a charity's number and to become a registered charity. Like, you have to actually have a purpose. It has to be vetted. It has to be set up. There has to be a board. And then if it comes, or whenever it may come to the time where a club is looking for a charities number, which has happened, please connect with us as the fund development team, because it can be quite difficult and it can cause quite a bit of problems to actually give out the number, and then there are grants that are applied with and nobody is reporting back. And it could get problematic for the charity in itself, because there could be the potential to either lose the status or just, you know, be blacklisted from other foundations to receive funding. So because this was a little bit messy at the beginning with my slides changing, I'm wondering if Maddie or Suzanne, do you guys have any questions that came in through the chat that you would like to address?
There hasn't been any questions yet, but if you guys, or not that I've seen, but if you guys want to have any questions at all, feel free to message them in the chat, and then on pauses like this, we can ask Bianca.
Excellent. Okay, that sounds great. So also just to, oh, I think I'm just seeing something.
Yeah, one just came up, is 4-H Alberta a registered charity?
Absolutely, yes. So just to give you a little bit of transparency, when we were the previous 4-H Alberta, we had obviously those 3 pillars that are working under the umbrella of 4-H Alberta. The foundation, which is where I used to be, I used to work with the foundation until we became 4-H Alberta as a whole, had a registered charity number, and that number was actually being taken over. So we had a name change, but because we already had an existing charities number, we just took it over. So yes, we are a registered charity, which is great, because anybody who is looking to make a donation can address it to 4-H Alberta in exchange for a tax receipt. Awesome. Anything we would like to address right now, or should we move on?
Nothing else has been posted. You can move on, Bianca, and if there's more, we'll address them next pause.
Excellent. So, provincial and local sponsors. This one is near and dear to my heart. It's actually really important to me to address it, because in the past, I think there was a little bit of confusion and sometimes a little bit of ambiguity, and how does this even work, and who are those sponsors, and why do we have them? So for 4-H Alberta, sponsorship funding is used to support club, district, regional activities. So that includes not just, you know, program support like we're getting, or club support like we're getting it from Altalink. They are very generous sponsor. They sponsor our provincial program as communications, but they also provide funding each year, as they will this year, for the clubs, the districts, and the regions. So that's where we use part of the sponsorships, but then some sponsorships come in and they're actually for youth program development. So when we're doing, I don't know, a beef heifer show or selections, or I don't know, the 4-H Discovery Day, that's where we use our funds just to be able to provide this world-class, first-class youth programming. And most of the sponsor support is for programming and activities that benefit all of 4-H Alberta. So it's not specifically to one area, unless it is a very specific sponsor. You know, we had Chinook Financial. They were only in the south, the Calgary area, and a little bit of, I think it may have been West Central. You know, then they may locate that based on their operating area, which goes back to, you know, receiving a specific benefit or reaching a certain target audience. But for the most part, it goes to everybody across Alberta, which is so amazing because we can help so many kids. And what we also hope you can do is, and I will get to it with our sponsorship toolkit, that you help us recognize and celebrate those. So I, of all people, encourage you to have your own sponsors on your local level. You know, it's all about learn to do by doing. And I think everybody has probably a little local supporter, or like their restaurant, or is it, I don't know, a little a convenience store, or somebody who is helping them with their local events. And that's amazing. So please keep in mind, my objective, the team's objective, is not to steal or divert local support and funding. And I can tell you that's selfishly from a point of administration. If I was to look after every single one of your sponsors, that would be very administrative heavy on us, and it would take away the entire experience from the clubs. So we want you to have your own sponsors, your own supporters, celebrate with them. And what we hope is just, you know, combine them and help still celebrate our provincial partners that give, you know, in the $100,000 plus or the $50,000 plus, all that funding that will then go back into our youth programming. So that's just something that I wanted to address because it's come up in the past, and I think it's good to just let you know, and it's important to let you know, this is not the intent. We are here to build this as a team, as a group, and so we would like to support that. And because of it, we actually did decide we're going to build a sponsorship toolkit, which I'll get to. I see another question pop up, which is great because it gives me a breather.
Can you read it? I don't know if you saw it, Bianca. It said, should it be up to districts and regions to develop their own sponsorship list and then approach 4-H to ensure there's no double dipping?
You know, honestly, that's a great question, and that would be amazing. And it's not so much about the double dipping. Yes, we may have some sponsors that we already have secured, but we also want to make sure, you know, and that goes down to some of those that I'm talking about right here on the slide. It's more about, are they in direct competition? You know, are there some that may not be the greatest fit? And I'm not saying it would ever happen, but I don't know, would we have Marlboro really sponsoring one of our club events? I don't know. I don't think we would want to promote that. And sometimes it can happen, like with a larger sponsor like Pembina, because it happened in the past, that there was support on a local level that wasn't communicated to you know, the higher level, like in the Calgary head offices. And then both groups were talking, and we found out like, oh, you're already supporting on a local level. Well, this is amazing. You know what, if we kind of consolidate the effort and if we streamline the process, we may reach even more, because we can then say, hey, you know, you want to sponsor those clubs as you have done in the past, please go for it. We'll pay them out. And then if you still want to have additional benefits, because they would go obviously on a larger level province-wide, then we would be able to help with that. So it's more about collaboration. So, you know, please, when you have your local events, recognize your local sponsors. And then if you can, and that's with the toolkit, also the provincial ones. So it will come on the next slide that we have a sponsorship toolkit link that's up on the website. But if you want to talk to somebody who's a little bit bigger, you know, the door is always open. And, you know, if you say, well, I have this smaller local partner and could be direct competition, but probably not, like, what do you think? And I'll say, yep, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. This is great. Make sure you recognize them and thank the hell out of them and make them as happy so they come back the next year. So the sponsorship toolkit, I've mentioned it now a few times, but to help secure the local level sponsors and to celebrate existing ones, we actually have developed a sponsorship toolkit. So what I'll do is I will go and I'll see if it will actually pop up for me. And I can show you exactly, oh, there it goes, in the download sections where it is. So we have all those download areas. You know, we have salt, you have small animals. And then I just lost it too. Communications tools, sponsorship tools, like on the very bottom, we have a little toolkit.
Bianca, you just have to switch your screens because we're still looking at your presentation.
I am so sorry. There we go. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, that's better.
Thank you so much. I am so sorry. I was happily talking away thinking that you saw it. Anyways, it is in the download section of the website. It's on the very bottom, and we actually have created some templates. Now keep in mind, that's going to be a living and breathing document. This is not going to be the end of it. This is going to be just the beginning. And then as we look into it and we realize, oh, there's a need for, I don't know, for this, and there's a need maybe for another presentation, we'll make sure we add the details into it. So for example, there is a PowerPoint file. So if you wanted to, oh my God, please don't disappoint me. So in theory, there would be a PowerPoint file that would open up, and then you should actually see it download. So we'll make sure that this actually works. So I think it's thinking right now. Oh, so here's, for example, here's the sponsorship recognition checklist. Just giving you all the details and who to contact. And if you wanted to send pictures, which is always amazing, we love the pictures, you know, we can make sure you have a checklist here available. The same thing goes for, which one do I want to open now? There would be a sponsorship FAQ, there would be a thank you card. See if the script opens. Not right now. Okay. Well, I'll make sure that this is all working. The next time, probably by tomorrow, I'll talk to Shane and make sure it's up and running. But yeah, so this sponsorship toolkit is going to be available to you, and we'll make sure that any kinks are worked out of the system, first of all, and that we are going to have it available for you, and that we'll build it, you know, as we see need for it. Now, are there in the between right now any questions?
There aren't any in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, let us know now. You can ask. If you think of something too, it's no big deal. Like, we'll have lots of breaks and we can have a question time at the end too. So
absolutely. And if I'm too fast, please throw it in the chat. So if you need more soak time. So anyways, we'll make sure all the toolkits work, all the little tools, and it includes templates, info materials. If you're looking for something that's not there, if it's like a letter to approach a sponsor and you're not finding it right now, or if you just want to know, we're also going to put up this PowerPoint, by the way, just as an FYI, and that's where the FAQ document will live. But if you do have anything that you would like to include, you can always either contact myself or Karina or Lindsay. So between the three of us, we'll make sure that your you know, requests are heard, and we can make adjustments. And just keep in mind that sponsors, they love the program. We just had a conversation today about a scholarship coming from a local sponsor for this coming year. And they said, you know what, we just love the program, it's amazing. When we have a new sponsor that we just secured, and they're called Wolf Midstream, but go by Wolf Carbon. They are kind of in the east-west central area, but they said, you know, once we told leadership that we actually have a partnership now with 4-H, suddenly they find out that one of their senior execs is actually a former 4-H member. You know, it's such a great program, and the sponsors love it, and they are proud. UFA's, you know, funds 4-H clubs and districts program is going to kick off here again, is actually already underway and is going to extend the timeline. But they love it. They're so proud of it. That's one of their favorite things to do. Just keep in mind, they all love it. And let's make sure we show them how much their support means to us as well. I think I see a question in the chat.
Yeah, there is. If someone wants to make, oh, there's another one too. If someone wants to make a donation to our club and request a charitable donation receipt, do we contact the development fund for the receipt?
Yeah, so what happens is all funds, from a charity's point of view, if you issue a tax receipt, the revenue, which is the donation, has to hit the books of the charity issuing the tax receipt. So if there is an, annual audit by the auditors, or if CRA ever comes in, they see like, oh, there was a revenue that came in and then there was a tax receipt issued. So the proper step would be, if the donor knows who the club is, please don't just send a check and say, donation, because then we don't know what it is for. Any donor who wants to send in a check, please in the memo field just outline whatever club it is for, and then we will cash the check, deposit it, issue a new check for the club or an EFT, whatever it is, and issue a tax receipt to the donor. So that satisfies the entire process of, being having a proper paper trail in place.
Okay, so another question, just to clarify, if you donate money to 4-H Alberta, you qualify for a tax deductible receipt. If you donate money to a local club, you do not qualify for a tax deductible receipt.
Correct. So it has to go through the charity.
Yeah. Sorry, you did just answer that question. Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's just, it has to go through the charity. We can, as long as the funds are designated and we know it's designated to a club, and it happens through Canada Helps all the time, right? So we get a donation through Canada Helps and it says designated to such and such club. We get the funds at some point and we issue the funds right out. So that it's an in and out process. And then the donor gets the tax receipt for the income tax purposes.
Another question is there a fee to the club or district to go through this process?
No, not at all. So what we have done is we actually taken the donation. The problem is if it goes through Canada Helps, it's not 4-H Alberta that keeps a fee. Let's assume, there's a $100 donation that comes through Canada Helps, which is an external online portal. Canada Helps as the external portal keeps, I think, a 2% or 3% admin fee, because they take the money and then send it over to us via transfer. So that's not on 4-H Alberta. It's the Canada Helps portal. It's the same with Benevity. They're just external portals who, do that. But if there's a check payment that would go to 4-H Alberta, it just goes in and out. That's the difference.
Right, and I think that kind of answers it, but someone said we'd heard that if it goes through 4-H Alberta, they keep a percentage. Or
no,
do they keep a percentage?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's Canada Helps and Benevity, and they're external fundraising tools. Canada Helps has, I don't know how many charities that sign up, because they don't have their own online capacity on a website. So when we have a donate now button, it just actually redirects the donor back to Canada Helps. And that's where the donation is made. And that's when the club says, well, but we were supposed to get 100, why are there $97? Well, it's because Canada Helps keeps a part, because they have to take the money and then transfer the money over to us. That's the difference. It's just the external donations portal.
But if you were to write a check, Bianca, and send that to the to 4-H Alberta, they would get the full 100% of it back, right? If it was a check, and then rather than
Correct.
going, yeah.
Yeah, that's just the difference. But if it doesn't go through us, and some people, they're just like that. They're like, you know what, I want to do it online. I want to be over and done with. However, dollar for dollar, cent for cent, when it comes in as a donation, goes back out as a donation. Or with capture, like if it goes to a scholarship, then it just goes back into the scholarship, whatever the intent is of the donation. Okay, let's see. Yeah, questions. Jeez.
There is a question, what is the average time frame for the club specified to receive their donation after 4-H Alberta receives the donation?
Honestly, it always depends. So normally as soon as we get it, it gets deposited. But then if it's a check transfer out, I think it takes a little longer than just the EFT. And my understanding is right now we're trying this whole Pluto system, which is our scholarship kids actually last year received a lot of their payments through Pluto. So the process is supposed to be a little bit faster because it's just click of a button. On the other hand, if it's a check that goes out, if somebody's not set up for an EFT on the club side, then it just takes a little bit longer, just because it needs 2 signatures. That's. So let's see.
There's no other questions right now. Someone just said, thanks for clarifying that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this would have been a very fast webinar.
Does
So
anybody
this
have
either means it's good or it's just overwhelming.
right? Does anybody have any questions? You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask Bianca for clarification or for additional questions that maybe she didn't touch on.
I have a question. UFA is one of the sponsors for 4-H Alberta, but we have a local UFA agent that wants to donate to our club. How does that work in terms of like the double dipping thing?
Actually, it's their own choice. I mean, we have the agreement in place with UFA. Their funding is earmarked for the UFA funds 4-H clubs and districts program. But if they want to make a donation, that's their prerogative, right? That's up to them. So what I would ask you to do is let them know, whatever your club is, let them know to put it on the check or whatever payment, send it over to 4-H Alberta to the center, they'll cash it and we'll get the money right back to you.
Can they write a check to us directly if they want to? Like,
Well,
just write our club name on it, like that's fine still too?
Well, they could, it's just they wouldn't get the tax receipt.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Bianca, there's another question. What is the name of the new sponsor and what are they sponsoring?
So their name is Wolf Carbon Solutions, actually Wolf Midstream. They have little subsidiaries and they go by Wolf Midstream, but Wolf Carbon is going to be the one that's on our slides. And their funding goes to a scholarship that we're going to establish with them for the first time this year, and then into youth programming. And I'm going to work with Suzanne, so I can't really confirm too much yet. And I can, and then I can, say more about that. But we're going to work with them on some of the program ideas they have, and then it just goes back into youth programming.
There's another question. Is there going to be any fees to administrate scholarships in 2021?
So that scholarship question, and we'll have a scholarship webinar for the kids here in March, but the scholarship question is actually one for my colleague Lindsay, who is working on the scholarship framework that she's working on with the board and with the scholarship committee. So that's where I just really don't want to overstep the boundaries, because that's kind of her baby and she is working on that.
I'll send her contact info in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah. Any scholarship, questions?
Hi, Bianca. This is Kathleen Peltzer calling. I just have a question regarding sponsorship for like our beef show or our heifer show. We have individual sponsors that sponsor there. If they requested a tax receipt or for their charitable donation, do you want those individual checks to all be sent to 4-H Alberta? Is that what you would prefer? Because right now it's just, most of them are agriculture-based farming entities that they just write it off as advertising and promotion under their own books.
Yeah.
But if they're looking for a charitable donation, is that what we should be doing for these beef show and sales? And
Absolutely.
like sponsorship for horse camp and that?
Well, if it's a philanthropic donation, if they're really looking for that donations receipt for their income tax purpose, and if it's not a marketing expense, then yes, it has to go through the charity, which is 4-H Alberta. And the same process applies. They just let us know on the check or whatever, please give it to, Kathleen's club, and then we'll make sure it gets there. If it's just for the sponsorship, and for them it's just they're using it as a marketing expense, it doesn't have to go through us. Then it can just go through to you. If it's local, you probably have done it
Yes, for
long,
sure.
right?
So most of the, so for most of the businesses, it's not a big deal, but when we have a personal family
Absolutely.
donating,
Yep.
that would be excellent. So that's really great to know. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, my pleasure. We want to do it right. That's the whole thing, is we want to do it right, and we want to do right by the donors. And they will actually use it at the end of the year. maybe I'll just makes it easier. Yeah, so Madeline just shared Lindsay's email address as well. And by the way, scholarships are going to start up again here on March 1st, so keep the kids ready and busy.
Did anybody have any other questions for Bianca? No?
Was it
Right.
helpful?
Was it helpful? Yes, there's a good question. Was it helpful?
And keep in mind, the door is always open. So what you have seen here was just the start. Like, we had to start somewhere. So we wanted to make sure it was a little bit of a lighter, you know, like, okay, this is what sponsorship is. And I'm sorry for the blips at the beginning until I could figure out how to take the timer off my slides. And this is what philanthropy is and sponsorships. And this is how we treat each one of them. And one thing that I have noticed, and I think it's probably something that we should address now. We had a club contact us about, or maybe it was multiple clubs, and it was about some kind of in-kind sponsorship where, in hindsight, like after the fact, everything was said and done, somebody came back and said, oh, we need this tax receipt. And it was very difficult to actually trying to figure out, okay, what would have been the value be, and how can we confirm that? So if you have someone, and I think maybe it was advertising space, or maybe it was some kind of virtual space they were trying to do. Regardless, if they're looking for that, let them have the conversation with us. Because like I said earlier, you know, with in-kind, it's quite tricky, and you have to really cross your T's, dot your I's, so CRA doesn't come after you. As CRA, yeah. They love those in-kind things, and they like to pick them apart. So it can not just trigger an audit for us, but also on the receiving end, on the donor's end, who then actually, you know, has to open the books, and you have to go through it, and it's like, oh, you know, it's a big nightmare. So we are here to help. So if you have anyone who would like that, and they approach you for one of your beef show and sales, let us know, and we will work with them before, you know, it gets too complicated later on. And if you need, as a club, if you need, sometimes I get requests saying, oh, we need a charities number because someone, you know, they say we need the charities number to actually get a benefit, to get a discount, to get something. You know, just let us know as well, because we are happy to help. And we can always write a letter of support, which goes a long way, without actually having to share a charities number that then is out in limbo, and you know, applications are being made and then reporting is not made, and it gets really complicated. So again, the door is always open. And just if you want to take a screenshot, oh, I already canceled that. So I'm going to open it up again just for 1 second. If you want to take a picture, I mean, you have my email address. Lindsay, she's also working on the fund development team, a lot on the grant side, a lot on the scholarship side. And then Karina, who is our fund development coordinator. So if you do need, you know, anything answered, if you need to reach out, either one of us, we're always going to be available to you and available to answer questions. It's an open door policy. You call us, you email us, we'll be there. We just need to know, because we don't know what we don't know.
Hi, Bianca, it's Kathleen one more time. I just
Yeah.
have one final question about this donation. So with some of the monies, we have some sponsors for our beef show. It just goes towards a show sponsor. They don't delegate what they want to sponsor. Some families, and they're just personal families, not farm entities or corporations, they sponsor a class. And sometimes if the prize is of something that we can embroider or something, we do put their family name on, sponsored by, you know, Joe Smith. Does that still give them the opportunity to apply for a charitable donation tax receipt? Or now, because we've given them an in-kind as opposed, like with the advertising, is that kind of muted it then?
You totally got it. It's a benefit that would have to be deducted. I actually had the conversation with one of my peers in the industry, and it was the same thing. It was about a donation, but then as part of this bigger donation deal, they had offered some kind of so the receiving end, the charity had offered, okay, we can send kids out, or we can send someone out to pick up bottles for the bottle drive. And then suddenly, because there is a certain value attached to it, she said, well, they put it into the presentation, but now you actually have this trouble of, you know, with a tax receipt, the benefit has to be deducted, because the receiving charity actually offered the benefit of picking up bottles, so nobody had to do it. So how do you get to that value? But the same applies to what you just described. You're saying supported by, well, it shouldn't say anything. They should just give you the money, and then you would just, or we would just issue the tax receipt, because anything like it, even if it's just the family's name that's somehow attached maybe to a corporation, could be seen, and I'm not saying it because it's me, it's because that's a CRA thing, could be seen as a little bit of marketing. So the safest way is just to say, you know what, here's your donation, thank you so much, there's my tax receipt, off I go. Awesome.
Awesome. There was a little bit of chat in the box too, Bianca, that said their links worked on the downloads. So maybe it's just you got too much stuff open, but
Probably.
so that's positive. All right.
Awesome.
Okay, if nobody has any other questions, like Bianca said, you can call her anytime. We also are I've taped this, and so we'll put it on the YouTube channel so that any of you can watch it again or show it to your fellow leaders if there's questions that come up. And yeah, and thanks a lot for coming. Join us in a couple of weeks where we will have another presentation that will focus on a few other things that we do at 4-H Alberta, and hope that we can help you guys out with too.